In a faraway kingdom, there lived a king and queen who had everything they could wish for, except for one thing, a child. They longed to have a baby of their own and prayed every day for this blessing. After many years, their wish finally came true, and the queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The king and queen were overjoyed, and they named the daughter Aurora. To celebrate the birth of Princess Aurora, the king and queen decided to throw a grand feast. They invited people from all over the kingdom to join in the celebration. Most importantly, they invited 7 good fairies to the feast, hoping that they would bless Aurora with gifts of kindness, beauty, and happiness. At the feast, the good fairies lined up to give the baby princess the blessings. The first fairy stepped forward and waved her magic wand over the crib, saying, "I give you the gift of beauty. You will grow up to be the most beautiful woman in the world." The second fairy said, "I give you the gift of wisdom. You will be wise and make good decisions." The third fairy said, "I give you the gift of grace. You will be graceful in everything you do." The other fairies also blessed her with gifts of kindness, joy, and love. But just as the 7th fairy was about to give her gift, the doors of the hall burst open, and a cold wind swept through the room. Everyone turned to see a dark figure standing in the doorway. It was the evil fairy Maleficent, who had not been invited to the feast. Furious at being left out, Maleficent cursed the baby princess. She pointed her long, bony finger at Aurora and said, "When the princess turns 16, she will prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die." The entire hall gasped in horror. But before anyone could react, the 7th good fairy stepped forward. She couldn't undo the evil fairy's curse, but she could soften it. The 7th fairy said, "The princess will not die. Instead, she will fall into a deep sleep that will last for 100 years. She will only awaken when a prince, who truly loves her, kisses her." Although the king and queen were still worried, they were somewhat comforted by the good fairy's words. To protect the daughter, the king ordered that every spinning wheel in the kingdom be destroyed. No one was allowed to spin thread or even own a spinning wheel. Years passed, and Princess Aurora grew up to be a beautiful and kind young woman, just as the fairies had promised. On her 16th birthday, the king and queen threw a small party for her, but they were still anxious about the curse. To keep her safe, they kept her inside the castle, surrounded by guards. However, on that fateful day, Aurora wandered through the castle, exploring rooms she had never seen before. In one of the highest towers, she found a small, dusty room. Inside, an old woman sat at a spinning wheel, spinning thread. Aurora was curious. She had never seen a spinning wheel before. The old woman, who was actually the evil fairy Maleficent in disguise, invited Aurora to try spinning. As soon as Aurora touched the spindle, she pricked her finger. At that moment, the curse took effect, and Aurora fell into a deep sleep. When the king and queen found her, they were heartbroken. They placed her on a bed of the softest silk and laid her in the grandest room in the castle. The 7th fairy, who had softened the curse, returned to the castle. She saw how much the king and queen loved the daughter and decided to put everyone in the castle to sleep as well, so that when Aurora woke up, she wouldn't be alone. A thick forest of thorns and vines grew around the castle, hiding it from the world. Years turned into decades, and the story of the sleeping princess became a legend. Many brave princes tried to fight their way through the forest, but the thorns were too thick, and they all failed. After 100 years had passed, a young and brave prince heard the story of the sleeping princess. He was determined to find her. The prince traveled to the hidden castle and fought his way through the thick, thorny forest. When he finally reached the castle, he found everyone inside asleep. He climbed the grand staircase and entered the room where Aurora lay, as beautiful as ever. The prince was enchanted by her beauty and leaned down to kiss her. The moment his lips touched hers, Aurora's eyes fluttered open. The curse was broken. All around the castle, the people began to wake up from their long sleep. The king and queen were overjoyed to see the daughter awaken well. Aurora and the prince soon fell in love and were married in a grand celebration. The kingdom rejoiced, and they all lived happily ever after. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful girl named Rapunzel. She had long, golden hair that reached down to her feet. Her parents were farmers, and their life was simple and content. However, soon after Rapunzel was born, a wicked witch named Mother Gothel, who had been coveting the magical properties of Rapunzel's hair, kidnapped her and locked her in a tall tower. This tower had no stairs or doors, only a small window at the top. The tower was hidden deep within a dense and mysterious forest, where no one ever ventured. Mother Gothel took care of Rapunzel but never allowed her to leave the tower, fearing that she would lose the magical hair's powers if Rapunzel ever escaped. Every day, Mother Gothel would come to the tower and call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel would then let down her long, golden hair, and Mother Gothel would climb up it to reach the top. Rapunzel's days were long and lonely. With no friends or family to keep her company, she only had the birds and small animals of the forest who visited her window. She spent her time brushing her hair, which was incredibly long and beautiful, and singing songs that she made up to pass the time. Her voice was as beautiful as her hair, and it echoed through the forest. One day, a prince was riding through the forest on his horse. He was an adventurous young man, always seeking out new places and experiences. As he rode deeper into the forest, he heard a beautiful voice singing. The prince followed the sound of the voice until he came upon the tall tower. He looked up and saw Rapunzel singing by the window. The prince was immediately captivated by her beauty and her enchanting voice. Determined to meet the girl in the tower, the prince hid and waited until Mother Gothel came to visit. When he saw how the witch called out for Rapunzel to let down her hair, he realized how to reach her. After Mother Gothel left, the prince stepped out from his hiding place and called up to the window, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel, thinking it was Mother Gothel, let down her hair. The prince climbed up, and when he reached the top, he found himself face to face with the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Rapunzel was frightened at first, but the prince spoke to her kindly and told her who he was. He explained how he had heard her singing and felt compelled to meet her. Over time, the prince visited Rapunzel regularly, and they grew to love each other. The prince told Rapunzel stories of his kingdom, his adventures, and the beautiful world beyond the tower. Rapunzel, who had never seen the outside world, listened in awe and longed to be free. They both knew that the only way they could be together was if Rapunzel escaped from the tower. One night, when the moon was full and the forest was bathed in a soft, silvery light, Rapunzel and the prince decided to execute their plan. They waited until Mother Gothel was deep asleep. Rapunzel let down her long hair, and the prince climbed up one last time to take her away. Together, they climbed down her hair and set off through the forest. But Mother Gothel soon discovered that Rapunzel was gone. Enraged, she used her dark magic to track them down. As Rapunzel and the prince ran through the forest, they could feel the witch's presence getting closer. They ran faster and faster until they reached the edge of the forest. The prince helped Rapunzel onto his horse, and they rode off toward his kingdom. Mother Gothel, despite her powerful magic, could not keep up with the swift horse and soon lost their trail. Defeated and furious, she returned to her dark lair in the forest, never to be seen again. When the prince and Rapunzel reached the kingdom, they were welcomed with open arms. The prince introduced Rapunzel to his family and told them her incredible story. The royal family, moved by her bravery and resilience, accepted her as one of their own. The prince and Rapunzel were married in a grand ceremony, and the entire kingdom celebrated their love and joy. Rapunzel's parents, who had been searching for their lost daughter for years, were finally reunited with her. The prince sent out a search party, and when they found the humble farmers, they were brought to the palace. Overwhelmed with joy and gratitude, they embraced their long-lost daughter and were welcomed to live in the palace with her. Rapunzel, who had spent so many years in captivity, was finally free. She spent her days exploring the kingdom, making friends, and sharing her songs and stories with everyone she met. Her magical hair, which had brought her so much trouble, was now a symbol of hope and beauty. And Sir Rapunzel, the prince, and her parents lived happily ever after in the kingdom, where they were loved and cherished by all. Mother Gothel's dark presence was gone, and the kingdom flourished in peace and happiness.
Beneath the surface of the vast endless ocean, there existed a magical kingdom known as Atlantica, ruled by the powerful and wise King Triton. This underwater realm was a world of shimmering coral reefs, lush seaweed forests, and an array of marine life. In the grand palace of Atlantica, King Triton lived with his 6 beautiful daughters, the youngest of whom was a mermaid named Ariel. Ariel was different from her sisters. While they were content with their lives under the sea, Ariel's heart was filled with an insatiable curiosity about the human world. She would spend hours exploring shipwrecks, collecting human artifacts, and imagining what life might be like on land. Her best friends, Flounder, a timid but loyal tropical fish, and Sebastian, a strict yet caring crab who served as the king's advisor, often accompanied her on these adventures. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a fiery orange, Ariel ventured to the surface of the water. From there, she spotted a grand ship sailing in the distance. It was a magnificent vessel, its sails billowing in the wind, and it carried a crew of lively sailors who were singing songs of the sea. But what truly captured Ariel's attention was a young man standing at the bow of the ship, gazing out at the ocean with a look of pure joy. He was Prince Eric, a handsome and kind-hearted prince who loved the sea as much as Ariel did. Ariel's heart fluttered as she watched Eric, feeling an emotion she had never known before: love. She stayed hidden beneath the waves, listening to his voice and dreaming of what it would be like to be part of his world. Suddenly, dark clouds gathered in the sky and a violent storm broke out. The ship was tossed by the raging waves, and despite the sailors' best efforts, it was destroyed. Prince Eric was thrown into the sea unconscious and began to sink into the depths. Without a moment's hesitation, Ariel dove into the stormy waters. With powerful strokes of her emerald tail, she reached Eric and pulled him to the surface. She struggled against the waves, determined to save him, and finally brought him to a secluded beach. Exhausted, she gently laid him on the sand and gazed at his face, so peaceful in sleep. Unable to resist, Ariel sang a hauntingly beautiful melody, her voice filled with love and longing. As she sang, Eric began to stir, his eyes slowly fluttering open. But before he could see her, Ariel heard voices approaching and quickly slipped back into the sea, watching from afar as Eric was found by his servants. Back in Atlantica, Ariel's heart was in turmoil. She couldn't stop thinking about Eric and the world above the waves. Her longing to be with him grew stronger each day, so much so that she became distant and distracted, much to the concern of her father and sisters. King Triton, unaware of the reason for Ariel's sadness, tried to comfort her, but his efforts were in vain. Desperate to be with Eric, Ariel decided to visit Ursula, the sea witch. Ursula was a cunning and malevolent sorceress who had been banished from the kingdom for her dark deeds. She lived in a lair made from the bones of shipwrecks, surrounded by swirling black waters and eerie glowing creatures. Though Ariel knew the risks, her love for Eric gave her the courage to seek Ursula's help. Ursula welcomed Ariel with a sly smile, sensing the young mermaid's desperation. She offered Ariel a deal. She would grant Ariel legs, allowing her to become human and live on land. But in return, Ariel had to give up her most prized possession, her voice. If Ariel could win the love of Prince Eric and receive a kiss of true love within 3 days, she would remain human forever. However, if she failed, she would turn back into a mermaid and belong to Ursula for eternity. Blinded by love, Ariel agreed to the deal. Ursula cackled with glee as she cast the spell, and a swirling vortex of magic enveloped Ariel. Pain shot through her as her tail split into 2 legs, and her voice was ripped from her throat, captured in a glowing seashell that hung around Ursula's neck. The transformation complete, Ariel was washed ashore, now human but unable to speak. Prince Eric, who had been searching for the mysterious girl who saved him, found Ariel on the beach. Although she was mute, something about her seemed familiar. He took her back to his castle where she was given fine clothes and treated as a guest. Over the next few days, Ariel and Eric spent time together, exploring the kingdom, dancing and sharing silent laughter. Ariel's eyes spoke volumes, and Eric found himself drawn to her, but the absence of her voice left a void he couldn't ignore. As the 3rd day approached, Ariel became increasingly anxious. She had fallen deeply in love with Eric, but without her voice she couldn't tell him the truth. Meanwhile, Ursula, fearing that Ariel might succeed, decided to take matters into her own hands. She transformed herself into a beautiful young woman named Vanessa, and used Ariel's stolen voice to cast a spell on Eric. Under the spell, Eric became entranced by Vanessa, believing she was the one who had saved him. He announced his intention to marry her immediately, and preparations for the wedding began at once. Ariel was heartbroken, watching helplessly as her dreams slipped away. However, Flounder, Sebastian, and other sea creatures realized what was happening and devised a plan to stop the wedding. On the day of the wedding, as the sun began to set, Ariel's friends managed to disrupt the ceremony. In the chaos, the enchanted seashell around Vanessa's neck was shattered, and Ariel's voice was restored. The spell over Eric was broken, and he instantly recognized Ariel as the girl who had saved him. Overcome with joy, he rushed to her side, but time had run out. The sun dipped below the horizon, and Ariel began to transform back into a mermaid. Before she could escape, Ursula revealed her true form and dragged Ariel into the ocean. Furious that her plan had failed, Ursula decided to take her revenge on Ariel and her family. A fierce battle erupted beneath the waves. Ursula, using the power of the trident she had stolen from King Triton, grew to a monstrous size, creating whirlpools and summoning dark magic. Ariel and Eric fought bravely, but Ursula's power seemed unstoppable. Just when all hope seemed lost, Eric found a sunken ship and with all his strength steered its broken bow into Ursula's heart. With a scream of rage and pain, Ursula was defeated. Her dark magic dissipated, and the ocean returned to its peaceful state. King Triton, now freed from Ursula's curse, realized the depth of Ariel's love for Eric. Understanding that she belonged to both the sea and the land, he used his trident to grant her the greatest gift of all, permanent legs, allowing her to live as a human. Ariel and Eric were reunited on the shore, and they embraced, their love finally free to blossom. The two were married in a grand celebration, with both the people of the land and the creatures of the sea in attendance. King Triton watched with a mixture of sadness and pride as his youngest daughter sailed away with her prince, knowing that she had found her place in the world. And so Ariel and Eric lived happily ever after, their love bridging the gap between the sea and the land, bringing harmony to both worlds.
Once upon a time, in a kingdom nestled between emerald forests and crystal-clear rivers, there was a magical land called Elara. Elara was a place where the skies were always blue, and the flowers bloomed in every colour imaginable. The heart of this beautiful kingdom was the Rainbow Garden, a place where every flower held a special magic that kept the kingdom joyful and prosperous. At the centre of this enchanted land was the Grand Castle of Light, where Princess Isla lived. Princess Isla was known far and wide for her kindness, bravery, and her special gift. She could talk to flowers and understand their magic. She had long, wavy golden hair that shimmered like sunlight, and her eyes sparkled with the colours of the rainbow, reflecting the beauty of the garden she loved so much. She always wore a dress that changed colours with her mood, soft pinks and blues when she was happy, vibrant reds and oranges when she was excited, and calming purples and greens when she was thoughtful. One bright morning, as Isla strolled through the rainbow garden, she noticed something unusual. The colours of the flowers were starting to fade, and the sweet melodies of the birds were growing quieter. The vibrant reds were turning into dull maroons, the blues into greys, and the sparkling golds into pale yellows. Even the usually cheerful sunflowers looked droopy and sad. Concerned, Princess Isla knelt by her favourite flower, a golden rose, and whispered, "What's happening, dear friend?" The golden rose, though fading, replied in a soft voice, "Princess Isla, the magic of the garden is being drained. The source of our power, the rainbow crystal, has been stolen by the enchantress of shadows. Without the crystal, our colours and magic will disappear, and Elara will lose its light." Determined to save her kingdom, Princess Isla knew she had to embark on a journey to retrieve the rainbow crystal. She saddled her faithful unicorn, Starfire, who had a shimmering silver mane and sparkling sapphire eyes, and set off toward the Forbidden Forest, where the Enchantress of Shadows was said to dwell. The Forbidden Forest was dark and eerie, filled with twisting trees and shadowy creatures. But Princess Isla wasn't afraid. With every step, her dress glowed brighter, lighting the way through the darkness. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they encountered magical creatures. A wise old owl with feathers like silver moonlight, a mischievous fairy with wings that sparkled like diamonds, and a gentle giant who guarded the entrance to the enchantress's lair. Each creature tested Isla's courage and kindness. The owl asked her to solve a riddle. The fairy demanded she navigate a maze of illusions, and the giant challenged her to a contest of strength. But Isla, with her clever mind, kind heart, and unwavering determination, passed every test. She was rewarded with gifts: a feather that could summon a breeze, a vial of enchanted light, and a shield made of pure love. Finally, Isla reached the enchantress's lair, a gloomy castle made of black stone and twisted thorns. The Enchantress of Shadows, a tall woman with raven-black hair and a flowing gown of shadows, greeted her with a sly smile. "You've come for the rainbow crystal," the enchantress said, her voice echoing like a cold wind. "But why should I return it? Darkness has its beauty too." Princess Isla stepped forward, her colourful dress glowing against the darkness. "Without the rainbow crystal, the balance of our world will be lost. Light and dark must coexist, but not at the cost of the other. I am not here to fight you, but to find harmony." The enchantress was taken aback by Ila's words. No one had ever spoken to her with such understanding. "You speak with wisdom, young princess," she said, her voice softening. "Perhaps there is another way." Princess Isla offered the enchantress the gifts she had received on her journey: the feather, the vial of light, and the shield of love. These gifts represent the power of friendship, hope, and love. Let us use them to restore balance so that both light and shadow can thrive together. The enchantress hesitated, but then she saw the truth in Isla's eyes. With a wave of her hand, she returned the rainbow crystal to the princess. The moment Isla touched it, the colours of the rainbow garden began to return, even spreading into the enchantress's dark castle, turning it into a place of twilight beauty, where both light and shadow danced in harmony. As a gesture of goodwill, the enchantress gifted Isla a seed from the most magical tree in her forest. "Plant this in your garden," she said. "It will grow into a tree that blooms with both light and shadow, a symbol of our new friendship." Princess Isla returned to Elara, where the rainbow garden was more beautiful than ever, and the people celebrated her bravery and kindness. She planted the seed in the heart of the garden, and it grew into a magnificent tree with blossoms that glowed softly in the night and shone brightly in the day. From that day on, Princess Isla ruled Elara with wisdom and compassion, ensuring that light and shadow remained in perfect harmony. And the rainbow garden, now filled with colours brighter and more vibrant than ever before, became a symbol of the power of understanding, kindness, and friendship. And so, the tale of Princess Isla and the Rainbow Garden became a legend, teaching children the world over that true strength lies not in fighting, but in finding balance and harmony, even in the darkest of times.
If you liked our video, please subscribe.
Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a kind and beautiful young girl named Cinderella. She lived with her cruel stepmother and two selfish stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella. Cinderella's father had passed away, leaving her at the mercy of her stepmother, who treated her more like a servant than a daughter. Cinderella was forced to do all the household chores, from cooking and cleaning to washing and mending clothes. Despite her difficult life, Cinderella remained kind-hearted and hopeful. She befriended the animals around her, including mice, birds, and her loyal dog, Bruno. One day, an announcement came from the royal palace. The king was hosting a grand ball in honor of his son, the prince, who was of marriageable age. All the eligible young maidens in the kingdom were invited, with the hope that the prince would choose a bride. Cinderella's stepsisters were ecstatic and spent days preparing for the ball, trying on dresses and practicing their manners. Cinderella, too, dreamed of going to the ball, but her stepmother forbade it, mocking her for even thinking she could attend such an event. Despite this, Cinderella remained hopeful. On the evening of the ball, after helping her stepsisters get ready, Cinderella sat alone in the kitchen, heartbroken. Suddenly, a bright light filled the room, and Cinderella found herself face to face with her fairy godmother. The fairy godmother, seeing Cinderella's sorrow, decided to help her. With a wave of her magic wand, the fairy godmother transformed a pumpkin into a magnificent golden carriage, mice into elegant horses, and Cinderella's ragged dress into a beautiful ball gown adorned with delicate glass slippers. However, the magic came with a warning. It would only last until midnight, and Cinderella must return home before the clock struck 12. Cinderella arrived at the ball, stunning everyone with her beauty, including the prince. They danced together all night, completely captivated by each other. Cinderella was so happy that she lost track of time. As the clock began to strike 12, she remembered the fairy godmother's warning and fled the palace in a hurry, leaving behind one of her glass slippers on the grand staircase. The prince was heartbroken and determined to find the mysterious girl who had stolen his heart. He ordered his servants to search the entire kingdom, trying the glass slipper on every maiden until they found its owner. When the prince's servants arrived at Cinderella's house, the stepsisters eagerly tried to force their feet into the slipper, but it was no use. Cinderella, who had been locked in her room by her stepmother, managed to escape with the help of her animal friends. She approached the prince's servants and tried on the slipper, which fit her perfectly. The prince was overjoyed and immediately recognized Cinderella as the girl from the ball. They returned to the palace, where they were married in a grand ceremony attended by the entire kingdom. Cinderella's kindness and grace won over everyone, including her former stepmother and stepsisters, who were forgiven and treated with compassion. Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after, ruling the kingdom with wisdom and kindness, and proving that dreams really can come true with a little bit of magic and a lot of heart.
If you liked our video, please subscribe and hit like button. Thanks.